Hello, and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental nerds, Nick and Laura. On today's episode, Laura and I discussed personality tests. We talked to Martina Sestakova about art, the beauty of nature, and overcoming your fears. There's a lot of great advice in there, so be sure to check it out. And finally, seahorses don't have a functional jaw or a real stomach. In order to survive, they have to eat food that is small enough to easily pass through their digestive system, which I initially thought was devastating for our culinary aficionados, except every time I go to a fancy restaurant, they give you tiny portions. So maybe it's kind of all right. I don't know. Anyway, hit that music. NAEP is currently seeking nominations for at-large board members from voting members of NAEP. Selected nominations will then be put forward for a vote on February 2022. Eligible voting members include fellow members, general members, emeritus members, or emerging professional members. The NAEP board is composed of several elected at-large members, ex officio members, and chapter representatives from NAEP's affiliate chapters. NAEP members can self-nominate if you know a fellow environmental professional who you would like to recommend, and we encourage you to invite them to submit a self-nomination. Laura and I love doing this show. If you love it too and would like us to keep doing it, we need your help. We can't do it without our awesome sponsors, so please head on over to www.environmentalprofessionalsradio.com and check out our sponsor form for details. Let's get to our segment. It was really dumb. I was like, that was such a lame answer. I think I talked about that.
What did you even say? I can't remember.
I said something about like I'm an introvert, which I think we have talked about actually. Now that I think about it,
we have talked about that. Yeah,
it was like one of the first things we talked about, and I was like, "This is wrong. I got to redo it." It shocked Kara. She hadn't heard it before, I don't think. But yeah. I was like, "Yeah, I've talked about it." And actually, and the more I think about that too, it's really more like at the very end, it kind of clicked. I was like, "Wait, no, I'm not even an introvert because I still like being around people, so it's not even fair." It's like I'm an ambivert.
You are an ambivert. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I do love being away from people. I like both. I like being in a group.
I'm total ambivert. Like,
yeah. And then I'm like,
all of my personality tests come out on introvert side.
And so,
but always right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Mine are in the middle too. And like, I took one recently and it was the same thing. It was like 52 extrovert, 48 introvert. And I'm like, yeah.
See, mine's usually the other way, just a little bit on the introvert side. Mm-hmm. And then, but super close to right in the middle.
But I think it's all the more reason why you can't put people in boxes, and even the concept of introvert, extrovert is a little misguided anyway, because it just makes people think that we're only two things. Yeah.
There's very few people who, because claiming to be an extrovert is almost the opposite of being humble.
Right.
So I would say 90% of people that I talk to, like in career coaching and stuff, they think they're introverts. And I'm like, You're not. You just haven't found the space where you like to be an extrovert.
Yeah. And I think that's a much, much healthier way of looking at it. It's because everybody is in certain contexts,
like everyone likes to be at home.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you an introvert necessarily.
I know. You're totally
labels.
true.
It's all just freaking labels.
I know. Even personality tests, I find most of the time are just window dressing. It's like your personality is very complicated. It is not four letters.
So every time I try not to talk too much crap about them, because someone who takes part in them for the first time is always so stoked. Yeah. Like, I did this disc assessment. It was really cool. And then, I did this other thing and it was really cool.
Yeah.
Ask them again in a couple years.
And they'll be like, yeah, I know who I am. I don't need to take it.
Yeah, I did that one time.
Yeah, right.
They don't stick. They don't make that big a difference. You're not going to change the culture of your organization because you all did a freaking disc assessment. No, it's a good starting point, but it doesn't get you to the end, know?
Yeah, I think it's exactly it. It's like data. It's just a piece of information. It's what it is. And how you choose to use it is really what comes out of it more than anything else.
It's like a stepping stone into self-awareness. It's just like, it helps you see that, not everyone is like me. There are differences, but those differences don't have to be predefined in 4 little boxes or 16 little boxes or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Arrows and points and proximities and,
And your primary and your secondary. You got a primary personality and a secondary personality. No, you just have a personality. It's just, and it's complicated and it ebbs and flows. There's parts of you that you like to come out sometimes and other parts that you don't. And it's just how personality works. It's not static. It's just we love to measure things. We just can't help ourselves. I like to think that the first people were like, yeah, that tree's 3 people tall. I'm pretty sure. I'm certain it is. It's like, who cares? Like, just go get we need the apples from the tree. I don't care how tall it is. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of, but we just can't help ourselves. We really can't.
Yeah. And labeling things. Like, there's a new label for something all the time.
There's that's true.
New thing to call ourselves or to identify with or whatever, because the old things, we're tired of those. So we need new ones.
What is it?
Like boomers and Gen Xers and all that stuff.
Right.
Like, we didn't talk about that when we were kids. That didn't exist, like there were generations, but they didn't have these names like okay, boomer and all that stuff. But how do we use that? We used to throw shade on each other. Like,
exactly.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like there's a line in the song that I like where it's like, we basically are rebelling against the things that everyone else has already done before. And you just think that you're rebelling, but you're really just doing the same thing that the previous generation did. Like, it's all the boomers will tell you about the 60s and how wild and creative and diverse they were. And again, it happens every generation, every time. It's almost like, like your 20s are this way, your 30s are this way. And it's so funny to me that we feel original and we need to find a space to be unique, but it's still almost always, it's like every movie, right? There's like 3 different movies and they're all the same. It's just you put a little window dressing here and there and it's different, So pretty funny to me, actually.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. But I mean, like you say, there's value in that self-discovery, I think. And maybe that's another topic we can talk about next time, because I think that's really important too. And I actually have a fun self-discovery journey. We can kind of maybe walk through like how I got to where I am too. It was based a lot on like that, just one personality test, even though we're making fun of him a little bit here, but it was funny how that happened. So that's a little tease maybe for next time, but I know we got to wrap up so we can get to it.
Yeah, I know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there we go. Hello and welcome back to EPR. Laura is off today, so I will be flying solo. Today we have Martina Sestakova on the show. She is a little different than our usual guests, as she's not an exact environmental professional in a scientific sense, but rather an amazing artist who is passionate about the environment. Welcome, Martina.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
So what came first? Was it art or passion for the environment?
Oh, interesting. The role of art in my life is actually pretty recent. I would say about the past 6 years. So I think I have to say love of the environment and nature. I grew up in the Czech Republic in a fabulous garden maintained by my grandparents. So, I'm definitely the child who ate fresh potatoes and, fresh strawberries. And I have loved spending time outside in the garden. And art kind of rolled into my life a little later when I ended up going to graduate school for fashion design.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, like Laura and I love to travel. So you're from the Czech Republic. So what are your experiences like there? Like, so what else did you do on a day-to-day basis that helped foster that love of nature?
So I am from Prague. I'm from the city, but my family has a really interesting history. I actually grew up in a house built in 14th century.
Whoa.
So a really cool farm, what you would call suburbs of Prague, but the house was about a 10-minute drive from like the Prague castle, so kind of the downtown of the city. So a really cool place to grow up.
Yeah.
3 generations living in the same house, which was both good and bad. But I did grow up with grandparents who literally I would call people of the land.
Mm.
They worked with their hands all day long. And when it was lunchtime, my grandma would be like, hey, go dig out 3 potatoes. I need 2 carrots, so there was true connection. My memories of childhood are those of, 3 walnut trees and 2 pear trees and 8 apple trees. And like, it was all very like land and property and nature based.
Mm.
I don't know. We have always, gone out. Mushroom hunting is like the national sport of the Czech Republic, so my other grandfather owned like 8 mushroom encyclopedias and we would read them, that was like the winter read was mushrooming. So I feel like really, a really rich life when it comes to nature and my immediate environment. And kind of knowing what I can get and what one can do with an apple and what a potato looks like. So like quite, it may sound silly, but I feel like that's something I actually really kind of appreciate in my daily life.
No, yeah, it's great. And like you say, it's really, that connection is something that never goes away. So yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. So you're a pretty accomplished artist. So, tell us a little bit about the art you create and your educational program.
Sure. Thanks so much. So I am currently residing in Kensington, Maryland. So a lot of the activities I do is in the DMV area, Maryland, Washington, D.C. And I focus kind of on three areas, which I actually feel like really directly link to my childhood and growing up. I'm a textile designer, and this came out of me going to graduate school for fashion design, which I kind of liked and kind of didn't. Mm-hmm. And then, I took that one class, which was textile design. I was like, why did no one ever tell me about this? This is so fun, Right. So you pretty much paint and then you play with it and then it becomes a pattern and, that's it. So like so much fun. Where I think my work is, pretty interesting or not kind of the cookie cutter industry, let's design something for a new season thing, is that I only design new patterns around actual life experiences. Something happens to me and I have a visual of it and I want to tell a story of it. So, some of the scarves, as I mentioned when I was preparing for this interview, I was kind of looking at the body of work I have done. And I have a scarf called In Bloom, which is directly inspired by my grandmother's garden in Prague. I have a scarf called Raindrop, which is based on a photograph I took after a rainstorm in Costa Rica. I have a scarf called Passion for Walks, inspired by a poem by Mary Oliver. So it's all very nature-focused. It is moments that I've experienced. And I think when people look at my work, especially the scarves, there is a kind of like an overarching human possibility for connection. It's, pretty colors. But then I talk about the stories and everyone it wakes up something in them, which then we can all, connect over. So the textile design is kind of the big part of my work. And then I also love abstract art. So I'm a painter. I work on a really cool medium. Oh, this actually ties to environment as well. And I didn't even think about it. I work on a really cool medium called Yupo, which is a man-made paper designed in Japan. And it doesn't have any trees, but it is fully recyclable. So
there you go.
Plug here for Yupo. So, and like with the scarves, I kind of experience everything that I paint. And I love to read. And a lot of the imagery that I capture is inspired by poems. I already mentioned Mary Oliver, who was an avid walker, always outside and using really nature as a means of healing. Yeah. And so, again, a lot of the names of the paintings or the titles are stuff like I Take My Walk, Loving the World, After the Rainstorm. So there's a lot of natural imagery. And then the colors I use are the same case. It's, kind of pulling the greenery from the forest that I have visited, looking up at the sky, thinking about what blue communicates in our lives. So that's a little bit about the artwork. And then the third area of focus for me is art education. I really enjoy meeting people. So I have been teaching kind of through my own company on Zoom now that, it's a little harder to be together. And then I also work for a bunch of nonprofits that kind of focus on bringing arts to communities that don't always have access to arts. So, for instance, I am next year working with recently immigrated kids in high schools and kind of using art as a means for them to, learn about the culture, but also, kind of maintain their own or identities. I have worked with women in a local jail using art kind of as a means of, again, just kind of discovering new skills and maybe kind of broadening one's view. So it's been a very personally enriching experience. So.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. And
yeah.
I love hearing you talk about it because it's something you talked about visualizing what you're about to do.
Yeah.
And you talked about how that basically you're capturing emotions, thoughts, and feelings. So have you felt like you've been able to kind of convey that to other people through your education? Is that what inspired you to want to teach it? Because you know the process, but it's very foreign to some people. Some people have never thought that way.
Right. Well, it's kind of funny because I feel like I've been very fortunate to teach at very important places. It's nice to have these places on my resume. But I will actually tell you that I don't have any formal art education. I do have a degree. I have a master's in fashion design, and it is years filled with imagery and painting, but no one sits down and teaches you oils,
Right.
So I would say 90% what I do is self-taught, which I think is a great way for me to have compassion for other people.
Right.
And art is scary. I cannot tell you how many people come into the class and the first sentence is, I'm not creative. And they're kind of like, go away, like, don't look my way. And I'm going to sit at the other side of the room. And it's okay because I've been there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what draws me to the teaching is this opportunity to connect, to observe how we react to things we don't know enough about at the moment, and really kind of work with curiosity as a way of exploring new things. I mean, traveling is fun, right? We look around at the world, but you can really have a very similar experience at a desk. If you have a brush and you have an idea, it's kind of pursuing it is really opening up new worlds. So there's a lot to art that's really, really good.
Well, I love that. And say some of our listeners may not be primarily artists, but like Laura, with her photography, a lot of people do have that as a hobby or a passion or something that they may not even know that it's something they like to do. So what advice would you have for people who are trying to take that step, who are saying, like, oh, don't look my way, I'm not creative. But how do you get them involved in something like that?
I think what excites me most is believing that your ideas are worth pursuing. So if you have this inclination, I'm not creative, I think you can turn it around and think, okay, maybe, except I have a camera and I love taking photos.
Right.
Okay, maybe, but I did go to the art store and I bought those watercolors. I think there's something to us really honoring our ideas and what our bodies are telling us. And that kind of like shoves the fear to the side a little bit.
Right.
There's a really good story about Mary Oliver, as I mentioned, a famous American poet. She was a huge believer in in inspiration, whatever that was to her, I don't know, muse, something, I don't know. And she believed that if an idea came to you, it was really your obligation, I would almost say, listen to it, pursue it, do whatever you can do with it. Go bake that bread, I don't know, plant a tree, whatever.
Right.
And apparently she would go on a walk once. She had a notebook, but she forgot a pencil. And she had an idea for a poem and it disappeared because there was no pencil to write it down with. So, I always remember this. And every consequent walk she would take in the woods in her New England home, she would tuck a little pencil into a tree. And I think that's like so amazing. And if you like make a bigger story out of it, is right. There's this woman, she's an idea, she's honoring it. And she's kind of giving back to the forest, honoring the forest's ability to wake up these wonderful ideas in her.
Yeah.
So, like, to make a really long story short, if you want to pursue anything artistic and it's scary, give it a try. And, start with 5 minutes a day, kind of just see. And I think a lot of these ideas that tug at us, even if they are scary, they are really, really, really like life affirming.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do give them those 5 minutes, really good things will happen.
I love that. Oh, that's such a great answer.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you know what? It actually speaks, I think, to something that all of us can appreciate. She actually had a problem and came up with a very creative solution to that problem, which is really cool. And
yeah.
So you also, sailing and kayaking are also pretty important to you.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say. So does that influence how you get involved in places like Global Microplastics Initiative and the Maryland Oyster Restoration Program?
Yes. So, I already mentioned kind of the childhood and growing up. So I feel like I have like a really tight and good relationship with earth and like ground.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I met my now husband 6 years ago, there's a guy with a boat. And he was like, let's go out on the Chesapeake Bay. I'm like, of course we can go on the Chesapeake Bay. Sounds real fun.
Right.
So, a lot of what I'm going to talk about now is really just kind of, driven by my husband's interests. He's a lifelong sailor. Oh. So, wonderful kind of life on water. And, the Chesapeake Bay is just an incredible world treasure. I mean, it's just a place to be. So, yeah, we took the boat, and a few years ago, we got involved in a microplastics research, which was so interesting. Very basic instructions: go out on the water wherever you are, collect samples, mail them to a lab, and see what happens, and become kind of part of this worldwide effort. So it was really fun. We really focused on it, and it gave a lot of the adventures that we had a focus, almost like a destination. So it was both fun and both really educational. And, we read through the protocol of the study and full of this and full of that. And it was fun. So we collected, I don't know how many samples. I feel like we may have done over 20.
Yeah.
So a lot of samples on the Chesapeake Bay. We have also collected samples in Florida in the Everglades on a trip, which was really fun because we went on a 4-day kayaking trip with all of these empty bottles, tucked.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much food can we give up to collect samples? Because not everything fits into a kayak when you go out on the water for 4 days. So we collected samples there and, got back on the land and went to a local post office and shipped them in. So I think if people are interested in doing a little bit of research, there are really fun ways of doing it. It just kind of makes for fun, good stories. And one really fun experience that came out of this is both my husband and I enjoy writing. So we wrote a little blog about it, and it ended up being posted on the National Geographic's website.
Yeah, that's right.
Woohoo!
That's so cool.
So yeah, and it was all about sailing and kayaking and microplastics. So it's fun. It's really great to just kind of incorporate, the beauty of the world in daily life and write about it and explore.
That is such a cool thing. And did they just reach out to you, or did they just post it? Were they like, hey, we're gonna do this thing for you?
We got published on the organization's website, and then I know National Geographic picked it up.
That's so cool. That is really that's I hate getting so jealous on the show, but that's pretty cool.
One little claim to fame I have that I think is a really funny story too is we will always take pictures while we take the boat out on the Chesapeake Bay. And Chesapeake Bay magazine, I believe, they had a photo contest. So we sent a photo in, and we ended up on the cover of the 2017 cruising guide.
Yeah.
So
you did it.
Well, I am in the photo, except I'm looking away, and I'm about 1/4 inch tall. But I'm taking it on the cover of a magazine.
Yeah. So we're talking to a celebrity now. That's what I'm hearing.
That's right. Yeah, half an inch tall celebrity.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So, a lot of good things came out of being out on the water and just having fun and taking pictures. So.
That's amazing. And well, I mean, to be fair though, you were recently published in Plenty magazine. So you're creative and you're a writer as well, like you mentioned. That's another way to kind of combine your passions, and I love hearing about that. But what was the article about in Plenty?
So the Plenty magazine is a magazine published to kind of celebrate the Montgomery County Agricultural Reserve. My husband and I go motorcycle riding up in the area. It's maybe 20 minutes kind of north of our home, and it's a great area, farms and fields. It's beautiful. And I'm also on the board of Montgomery Art Association. And so I always see, the artworks that our members share. And we are driving through, and I'm like, there's all of these artworks kind of done about these lakes. And I just remembered last week, a member posted a photo, a painting of a vineyard or something. And I'm like, how about I write an article about kind of nature's really gift to the artist, right? You can step out, look at a tree, and it's a painting. And it, it's just, then you look at a cloud and it kind of wakes up your emotions, and it's something. So this article came really about as, one day being on a ride, loving kind of what I'm seeing, and then thinking, can I locate artworks that are actually created in the reserve? So I located four members of Montgomery Art Association. I wrote about getting out there and walking the path and, taking the photos. And yeah, it was a great experience, and the magazine enjoyed it, and it's published.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and no, I think it's great. It's a great thing to do. I think, like you said, art and nature really do go hand in hand. And so you've also traveled quite a bit, and like you say, you're telling us you create art as you travel. So is it like, what kind of places do you go, and do you theme it? Like, I think this is what I want to do, is go walk through a national forest, or what inspires you? How do you pick the trips you go on?
So I used to be one of these travelers who would have like an Excel spreadsheet. Let's go to New York City. Wake up at 8:20, at 8:40, lunch, 8:47, go to the museum, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what happened to me, but I don't do any of it now.
Right,
and I love waking up and just jumping into the car and going. So I have been fortunate to travel pretty extensively through Europe, because I do go visit my family every year back in Prague. And, it's a quick train ride to another country or a quick flight. So Europe is definitely one of my favorite places. But one of the best experiences I have had was crossing the US, on a camping trip. We spent, I believe, 37 days out.
Wow.
Which is really fun, and again, none of it planned. Getting into the car, we have actually, and don't judge me, this is not very high life, but we have converted the back of our truck into a bedroom. So
I love it.
I will definitely sleep on dirt if I have to, just to be outside in nature. I love being outside. And so US is absolutely fascinating to explore, go drive. We love to get into the car and set, whatever the Google Maps on like avoid highways.
Yeah.
And then, you get to places that, no one would ever tell you about. And it's just fascinating, and it's wonderful, and you get to meet new people. And it's really fun. So travel is, a great way to really expand one's worldview and meet other people, get out of the kind of comfort zone. And it's been very beneficial for me.
Oh, it's so great. Like, honestly, one of my favorite vacations I ever took was that exact thing. Just driving across the country. Yeah. We'll see where we are, and then decide how to camp or whatever. And it was fabulous. I love to hear that. Do you have a place in like an off the beat place in Europe what you would recommend for people to go to?
I feel like in Europe, I have kind of done a little bit of the touristy things. My husband and I did like a 5-day road trip from Prague to Poland. So that was kind of, again, off beaten path. But I don't know that I would, have a particular place to recommend. Just kind of wander around and drive into a tiny village and say hello and see where it takes you.
That is so cool. Even if you're a little nervous to do that, I think that's still a great idea. Great advice. Well,
when we talked about art, I think one of the biggest values I have is curiosity, because if you are curious, you are going to overcome that fear that you may have about picking your brush up and doing something on the paper. And I think one of the things about travel is the same. It's this curiosity about how other people live. And I have done, I feel like, enough travel and a variety of travel, from like, a really nice hotel to literally sleeping on dirt in the middle of a forest, when like snakes will crawl over me, that I can genuinely tell you that like the world is good. Get out there, you're going to meet really nice people and helpful people. All kinds of things happen during our lives, but I think if exploration and curiosity is a value you may have, it's Earth is a really good place to be. It's a really good place.
Oh, that's such a good thing. Yeah, I love that. And it's very inspiring. Yeah. And you've had exhibits like in the DC area. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about those.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been exhibiting pretty widely around in the area, trying to kind of showcase my artwork. Again, it's all of it is kind of tied to nature and the beauty of life and being alive. And I have a nice lineup for 2022 showing at a variety of nice venues. So I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah. So where can people find you in 2022? What venues are you have lined up?
One place I am really kind of proud of, and it doesn't just tie to next year, is I have a collection of my scarves featured at the Smithsonian, at the American Art Museum.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, if you go to the American Art Museum in Washington, D.C., they have a really nice gift shop, and my scarves are there on display.
Really?
Yeah. So,
that's so cool.
Yeah, that started as they were my first client ever when I started my company.
Oh, wow. That is amazing, though. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I have mentioned curiosity. I also have one of this, if you have an idea, just do it, even if it's the silliest thing around. So I designed this one scarf that's inspired by the American Art Museum building. And I'm like, who do I tell about this? It's really pretty. Come on. So I literally Googled email for the Smithsonian and sent them an email, a blank hole of emails. And I'm laughing and I'm like, what is this? And nothing. And I'm like, all right, well, you gave it a try.
Yeah.
Well, 3 weeks later, the buyer for the museum came back and bought all of this work. I'm like, hello. So, that was, I guess, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So another story to show you that if you have an idea, pursue it.
What? That is incredible.
Yeah.
So,
that's a really great place to be. I'm very honored that the work is, well accepted there. And just working on a list of places to show. I'll be showing at a bunch of galleries in the DC next month. I list everything on my website and share updates on Instagram. So if people are interested, there's a way to find my schedule.
Yeah. So where can people find you? Why don't we go ahead and give them that information?
Sure. So I try to promote my work. So I'm everywhere. I am on Instagram. I actually have 2 accounts on Instagram. The one that kind of tells the story is behind my scarves is called Radost by Martina Sestakova. The word Radost is the name for my company, and it's actually the Czech word for joy. So I hope that whatever you see coming kind of out of my hands and out of my mind is filled with joy. And then the second account on Instagram that focuses on my abstract art only is Martina Sestakova Art. And I have a website, and you're welcome to sign up for a monthly newsletter where I update you, and you can kind of get a list of all of the art workshops that I teach. You can learn about new designs in the scarves and new paintings. And that comes out on the 1st of each month.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely awesome. And we've covered a wide range of topics here, but I want to give you another opportunity. Is there anything else before we let you go that we didn't touch on right away?
I think I could just talk about myself all day. But, no, kidding. You know what? Let's finish with a good story that I hope will encourage everyone to follow their ideas. I teach art at retirement communities, and last week I was teaching a watercolor art class and had my oldest student ever. Take a guess. How old?
85?
104.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So no matter what age you are, get out there. This lady is 104, and she painted for an hour nonstop, created a beautiful, beautiful still life. So, moments like this in my work really, really encourage me to keep going and just meet new people and have fun.
Oh, wow. That's a great story. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. And I'll tell you, she was better dressed than me. Those nails and the hair. Woo!
So, I love that. Yeah. Well, Martina, thank you so much for joining us. You had so many great stories, and we were really happy to share them with our audience. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Great experience. Take care.
And that's our show. I want to thank Martina so much for joining us today. It was really fun to have her on. Great episode. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you, everybody.
Bye.